the coaching.
Okay, anybody else? Any other views? Anyone?
I'm also okay with that. We could discuss and then.
Okay, Purna, you are fine.
Yeah, I'm echo with Praveen, sir.
Okay, you echo with Praveen. Okay, so what topic interests you? What topic would be valuable for us to discuss today? What are you curious about?
If you allow me to ask you a question, okay? Scaling.
Scaling Agile.
Yeah. So the question is, I have written somewhere the question. Let me repeat my question. Yeah. So we are now currently working on multiple organizations and different business units, right? So where we need to work with a multi-agile team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about like a one team where we have a 5 to 9 or 11 members. So it's like a multiple Scrum teams in the organizations. So if you were happen to be a coach of that particular assignment, and what particular framework do you apply? And what are the factors that you see that influence your choice? And finally, to end with, what challenges did you face by applying that kind of a framework which you have suggested?
I see 3 questions at least.
Yeah.
Right, so first,
Sir, before answering your question, Praveen is my colleague in Legato. He is working for one business unit. I will work for another business unit.
okay, awesome.
We are close friends.
That I know, of course. So, wonderful. So, 3 questions I heard. First, to start off, what criteria would I look at to choose a scaling framework for an organization?
Yeah.
That's your first question.
Yeah.
So, based on that, with your context, what is that I would choose? And number 3, based on what I choose, what are the challenges that I have faced in my experience? Am I correct with the question?
Yes. I just posted.
Okay.
The full question. Yeah. I mean, for your maybe these are all multiple questions, right? So we tend to
that's why. So I'm
disconnect
pretty
and
clear. I think these are the 3 questions you asked, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So what role you want me to play here?
As a coach, I mean, as an agile coach of this transformation.
That I understood. In this conversation, what role you want me to play amongst us?
Okay, so role is you're a mentor.
I'm a mentor.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. No, just to be clear, right? So what is your expectation from me? Right?
Advisor, mentor, yeah, both.
No, those are 2 different things. You want me to be an advisor or you want me to be a mentor?
Okay, it's a mentor. Yeah.
It's a mentor. Okay. Okay. So can you tell me more about your organization?
So we are healthcare industry, and then most of our technology is a legacy technology, which we use a mainframe technology, and it's the business requirements are scattered and bits and pieces that every team works. But even though there is one person who coordinates at the end, but we do not know as a team, we do not know what is the other person doing or other teams doing. And now my responsibility is to coordinate the work between multiple Scrum teams of this business unit.
Okay.
And choose some framework, because so right now, maybe in last 1 year, we have made an advancement of moving them to a Scrum teams, at least Scrum teams, from waterfall to Scrum teams, and had one Scrum master for 2 teams, one product owner for 2 teams, something like that, and where they are now matured enough to start looking at the advanced levels. Okay. This is the current scenario, and what particular framework should I use now to achieve my goal?
So what is your goal?
Goal is to make valuable product at the end.
Valuable product at the end. Okay. So what is that valuable product that you are trying to make?
I mean, I don't know if it is confidential or not, but it's a service, the
Okay.
product that we
Okay,
build,
keep it.
which
We'll
will be
keep it there.
used.
Yeah, we'll keep it confidential. Perfect. So you are clear on what is the product,
Right.
yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And you are clear on what is the value that product provides.
Yep.
And if I ask a question, are you looking at the value from a customer perspective, or you are looking at the value from an organization perspective?
Organization. For me, like, okay, even though with the implementation of all these things, I know we have to be customer centric, and then they get value, they see extra features and all. I mean, so I don't care about now, because now I am assigned to a business unit where my value is, I mean, the value that I create or I wanted here is to make sure everyone integrates, everyone understands the vision, purpose, and create a value to the business. Okay, so the business will in turn prepare something else, and then they will sell it to customers. Okay, I don't care about that, but at least for now, integration part, now bits and pieces and all. So this is the part.
So it's inward focused right now.
Yep.
And you said you are dealing with multiple Scrum teams.
Mhm.
How are they integrating their delivery? Is there any connect between what they deliver, or they are distinctly independent Scrum teams?
There is a dependency, and we do it without any external focus. So every team, like they identify the dependency, and then they talk. Okay, there is no something like Scrum of Scrums, or there is nothing called as a PI planning or a Scrum at scale concepts. Nothing. It's just an independent team. If we have a dependency with the other team, then the Scrum Master used to take, or a project manager used to talk to other teams and exchange, or maybe one of the lead from this team, a team A to team B, they exchange the information. And the answer for other question is, there is a release team.
Mhm.
Okay, so release team takes care of the releases, and we tell them that, okay, my component is going in the February release or March release or January release, and accordingly the release team will make sure that there is no conflict between the components, and that there is a testing is happened, and they get a business sign off before they push it to the production. And we don't have decoupling. There is nothing called deployment and release. It is just only one. Once we push the code, it is available to the customer.
Okay. And just another question, right? So are these teams contributing to a single product, or are they contributing to multiple products?
Single product.
Single products. So that means their delivery is integrated at a product layer.
Yep.
Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you had 3 questions, right? So how would you prioritize those 3 questions?
These are all interrelated. I mean, my
interrelated
thing.
So logically, do you think we will be able to address all 3 questions in, let's say, next 20-25 minutes?
Yes.
That we have?
Yes. These are all interrelated. Yes, I would say the priority would be 1 to 3. I mean, so there is no change in order. So as the question comes, that is the priority.
Okay. And how is this impacting you today? Not having this, what is driving you to look for answers to these questions?
So at least if I know the answers myself, okay, I'll be able to implement. And then this is my initial, because we started in the month of January, and then this is my initial assignment. Okay, so I'll be able to better judge and help the teams.
Okay. And how would you know that what I'm going to tell you would be the right answer for you?
I mean, I'm just taking an opinion. Maybe either it could be correct or wrong. I would take my own discretion at the end. But so as an experienced person, I believed that I have asked a right person to the right thing.
Okay.
And again, there is no guarantee that I will be using the same 1, 2, 3 person. So it's about the opinion that matters.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you have to think about the criteria based on your context, right? What criteria would you look at to pick the right framework?
What I heard from the market, I mean, so at least I have to check, other teams and other markets. So whenever you say a scaling concept, because I also came from the scaled agile thing, so I would be more pulled towards that way. Okay, but before judging that, so I don't want to come up with some baggages that, okay, so this is there and this helps and everybody uses this, everybody, the market is talking about this. So I want to keep that baggage and previous experience of working in that assignment aside. And right now I'm fresh. I don't know anything. So right now
Correct.
I'm fresh. I'm now exploring what best I can help my team.
Absolutely brilliant, right? So you are taking away the baggage, you are leaving the monkey at the door. That's what we famously
Yep,
call,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's brilliant. I appreciate that. So with this fresh context, you are looking at your teams, your context, right? So what criterias will help you to really understand what framework would they need? What is the criteria which could influence that?
Mm, What criteria? I mean, any examples?
Yeah.
I'm
So
just
if let's say
understanding.
that,
Mm-hmm,
if you talk about safe, right? For
mm-hmm,
example,
mm-hmm,
safe, we generally look at, my view again, my experience, it says that if I have teams which probably are too different in their way of operation, right? So they may not be all development teams. Some may be development
mm-hmm,
teams, some may be
mm-hmm,
component teams. So SAFe is a framework which can help us to integrate teams that probably would use diverse frameworks, right?
yeah,
And still give us an opportunity to scale, right?
right, right.
That's how I look at, right? Whether it is less or whether it is scrum of scrums for that matter, they are more suited for areas where there is complete product development teams, right? Whereas there is an aggregation through product development. That means it's more driven by scrum. The teams are adopting scrum. If you have a team operating in Kanban, for example,
Mm-hmm.
in Scrum of Scrum, you would really struggle to get that going. Not that you
Yeah, yeah,
can't,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not so easy. You have to customize that a bit, right?
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm,
not a
mm-hmm.
straight
Right,
away
right,
an approach which you could
right,
use.
right.
That's how I look at, generally when I see myself. So from your point of view, in your context,
Mm-hmm.
how do you see what the teams are using? Is it a singular framework most of your teams are operating with, or are they looking at different frameworks? How is it right now?
Currently, all 8 teams are Scrum teams.
Okay, fair enough. So that
Yeah,
means
yeah,
you have an option to choose either Scrum of Scrum or less or safe,
yeah, yeah. Three are open now.
or all open,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, now what could be the next thing that you would look at? Okay, you consider the frameworks teams use.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What could be the next criteria which you think you can look at?
Okay. What factors is about the understanding of the framework itself.
Understanding of the framework itself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how much the teams understand the framework you are trying to bring in, right?
Mm-hmm,
From a
mm-hmm. Right,
capability perspective
right,
in the organization.
right, right, right.
So is there some framework being used for scaling in any part of the organization at this stage?
Yes.
Which one is that?
Yes, safe has been used, but right now not in touch. Maybe those teams are different and everything is different.
Yeah,
But
so
it's
safe is
been
already being used by
already
some
been
part of the
some.
organization.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So can you think of any reason
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to deviate from not using safe and looking at an alternate option for these teams?
Okay. The thing is, again, we don't have a budget for getting one more person or one or two more persons, like we say RT and then product manager. For now, at least we wanted to make the current setup as it is and show some results and go and get adapted to that.
Mm.
And what we heard is that that is a budget constraint and not a success story. Okay, so the other party is using, but no success stories.
Mm. Okay. So there are two constraints I am hearing. One,
Mhm, mhm,
there is no success story which can help you to get a business buy-in to adopt SAFe.
mhm.
Second, there is no budget for RTE or a product management role which is required for SAFe.
Yep.
Okay. Now, do you understand why there has been no success story in SAFe in the organization? Have you had some kind of discussion to see how they are doing it? Is there any constraint in the way they are applying? Have you done some kind of research there to understand what is the problem that they are facing? Is it really SAFe has not been successful, or is it a problem of communication of the success they have accomplished? What actually is the
Mhm.
issue with SAFe in the organization?
Okay, so it's not about the framework itself. Maybe the adaptation was not done perfectly or not done in a right way.
Hmm.
So this is what I sensed, from the interactions that I had with other people
Okay.
over there, and for now at least, that is what I heard from the people.
Okay. And another question to you, Praveen, is again, what makes you think that you need dedicated RTEs or product management roles for you to think about adopting SAFe?
Mhm. Maybe with a pre-notion
Pre-notion. Okay.
that if it has to be a Scrum team, a Scrum master and product owner has to be there. And if there is no two roles, then even though we say it's a Scrum team, but it cannot be a Scrum team.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
this is a pre-notion.
Pre-notion. So it's a preconceived notion that without this I can't do SAFe.
Yeah.
Okay. And even if you have to do Scrum of Scrum or even less, right, you would still need a role
Accountable person.
which
Mhm,
can
mhm.
take care of that responsibility. You may call it differently,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you will still need those roles, right,
Yeah.
for any scaling framework
Yeah.
to be used.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, I think the first constraint is out, that irrespective of any
And
framework you
framework, so
choose,
I need to have a one
you
more
will
person.
need to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
those roles,
Yeah.
right? Whether it is part-time or full-time, that's something you have to think about. Now,
Mhm.
coming to the second point of probably SAFe not being adopted right. So is it, what makes or what could be a better option, looking at what has been the lessons learned in the other teams in the context of the organization, and be able to do it right and show it as a success? Would that be more easy for you, or would it be more easy to look at a different framework altogether and bring entirely new flavor and probably start from zero? What would make sense in this organizational context?
Right thing. I've never explored. I mean, so at least my understanding was that, okay, if it is not working, then let's go and try other one. But right now, as I'm getting an understanding that why don't I try it in a better way, because I know that it's good to use. They might have not used correctly, and I can use it correctly and then show them the results.
Hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
And how are you progressing so far in our discussion, Praveen?
Mhm. Getting again, I mean, so trial based thing, I don't know unless I try, and then I again there are two options until and unless I was about to choose what else. But now I have two options right now, so let's start using option number one, and if I feel that it's not going to work, then choose the option number two, the other way.
Okay. So you have the answer for the first question
Mhm.
now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the second question was, what was the second question you had?
Mhm, mhm. It's about what factors influencing your choice one when you take.
Okay,
I
when
mean,
I
so if
take.
I
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think you hit nail on 2 points for sure, right? So
Mhm.
one is about understanding
The
the
framework.
the work the teams are doing, right? That is the first thing.
Yeah.
and whether scaling makes sense
Yeah.
is the second thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now that you said, yes, they are all Scrum teams. You said
Right.
that, yes, they are all contributing to the same product.
Yeah.
It means there is a need for integrating, so it becomes more optimal,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
those are two things. Then third thing, you also talked about understanding the maturity of the organization if they are already using some frameworks.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another thing. And you also talked about the current availability of budget for the organization for you to scale.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about 4 factors.
Right. Understanding
can be
the work, whether safe works for it, understanding the maturity of the teams, understanding the framework and the capability itself, and the budgeting.
budgeting part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely those 4 would be the starting points for anything, right? Hari is again one of the experts here. So Hari, what we are discussing is basically there were 3 questions to talk about.
Mhm.
How would you look at choosing a certain type of framework for scaling, right? So that was one. And if you decide to choose something, what factors influence that decision, right? And then
Yeah.
third one is, okay, what challenges you have faced when you try to apply that framework which we are trying to use. Okay. So I'm trying to use a mentoring approach here to work with Praveen on those questions. So we progressed with the first question and we also talked about the second question, right, Praveen?
Yeah.
The other factor I would also look into, apart from the 5 elements that we discussed, is also about the leadership view, which influences quite a bit, right?
Right.
How does the leadership look at a scaling framework?
Mhm.
What is more easy to sell based on the context of the organization, right?
Right.
Many times there is an inherent enviness to a certain framework, right? So you go and tell people safe, probably, some leaders would say, no safe, right?
Yeah.
Somebody may be allergic to Scrum, somebody may be allergic to less. So understanding that perceptions of the leadership is also an important element.
Right.
That will help you to create a better business case in the end, right? So
Exactly.
that's also another factor to think about, right? And then existing capability in the organization in terms of implementing that framework. So how many people, how many SPCs you have, or how many leading safe trained people you have,
Right.
so that it becomes more easy for that change to go through, right? If at all you choose safe, or if at all you choose a Scrum of Scrum. So how many people are already experienced with Nexus, right, or less? So understanding the capability within the organization that exists also is something which can help you, right, in that particular thing. I can think of those 6 elements or 7 elements right now. Hari, Parul, Puna, you want to add anything?
Ladies first.
Why? We all talk about equality.
Yeah.
So I want to let it be for Purna.
Not divert the discussion. So yeah, whoever wants to go first.
I think, yeah, I can only share my experience. You cannot build a bridge without the foundation, or anything without the base foundation. Now, and once it becomes to the DNA, to some extent, the base, the teams are stable, and they have been able to create the outcome. Then we start thinking about the scaling aspects, right? And some cases it is very easy, very fast. Some cases it is years of building the base. So if you are, it's like a base camp. If you're climbing a Mount Everest, you first of all have to have a base camp, right? And then you need to have different camps that we need to set up at different points in time in the journey, right? So you need to have this kind of a base camp approach, and then to the next camp, to the next camp, and to the next camp, and then at different stages you need to have a different facilitation. You encounter different challenges at different stages. That's my experience. And every framework has good and bad. Every framework that is available in the market has good and bad. Everything has a lot of value, and what works for an organization will be very unique to that organization.
Okay, Hari, I think you are giving great points. What we move to is probably how. The focus is on why and what.
Yeah.
So I think if we can help him with few more
How.
insights on the why
Yeah.
and what, how I think is still a long way ahead for them. So
Yeah.
it's about why to choose scaling and what framework to choose. That's what he is looking for right now. So any other thoughts you like to share on what can influence my decision to go with a certain framework?
Yeah. There is, of course, what you said was more or less, I would also repeat, you need to have a buy. You need to have the buy-in of or understanding. As I said, some people are allergic to certain framework because their experience of the past has not been great with certain frameworks who brings into the organization. So they have perceptions that is formed about certain frameworks. So we need to have a consensus that is built within the leadership team about what is the approach that we want to take. So if you're able to facilitate that consensus, it can be, it is coming from bottom up, it can come from top down, it can be a sandwich approach, whatever approach that we wanted to build, that is not a one single meeting that you get to consensus. It is a series of experiments that will bring you to that consensus. If you're able to experiment a bit, try out one approach and see if that works. If there is of course, that depends on whether you have the freedom to experiment or not. First of all, you need to create an environment to experiment first, to really get a buy-in to experiment first and see what is the best approach for you. And for that, we need to, for us, it was clear. In a number of years, we were on Scrum and Scrum and Kanban and Scrumban. Once you have reached a certain point in time, then we went to a lean journey. When I say lean, to integrate the business functions into the technology part. Once that is stabilized, and then we thought, okay, now safe is the best option right now because we have a fair bit of understanding of both lean approaches and the base approaches with the practices there. Then it was a very obvious choice because when you were looking at multi-location, big bang, or I would say enterprise transformation in a big scale, there are a very few frameworks that actually is pretty descriptive to really refer back. Somebody sitting in Europe, somebody sitting in US, somebody sitting in Japan, somebody sitting in China is having a common reference point, right? That is very few frameworks. I can call only Discipline Agile and SAFe are maybe these two are something that actually gives you confidence on everybody who's looking into it, having a clear or other having a common ground. And that's where the success of SAFe comes in, right? To some extent, from my experience, because most of the other frameworks doesn't even talk about the business part of transformation to a great extent. So when you're looking at such a big transformation initiative, what helps is the common reference points. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but that is my experience.
Yeah, thanks, Hari. Parul, any thoughts?
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to add from the discussion that both of you were having is that also it would depend on the size of the transformation that we're talking about. Like how many teams do we have, or what is our plan of scaling? And also and I want to do a +1 to Hari when he spoke about the, how open we are to experiment. Do we have that space to experiment? And if not, then are we able to change the organizational structure? Of role gaps that we're going to have, what is going to be our strategy on bridging that gap is something that we'll have to see based on the framework that we plan to take up.
Yeah.
Parul, I have a question here. You said experiment, right? So in order to do an experiment, in your view, is there any tangible timeline?
Okay. What question can you ask, Parul?
I don't know. Can you ask in on my
Yeah, what answer is coming up for you right now?
Have you experienced a space where experiment has had a timeline, or you have seen restraint? But it's a very leading question, which I don't want to ask.
Yeah.
So that's the thought
You
is
can
coming in.
always ask what level of experimentation currently your organization allows. You are exploring, right? So you're not trying to, it's an inherent, thing to lead or give a solution. Right?
Yes,
So
yes.
what you want is to understand curiously, to really knowing your organization, what level of experimentation does it allow today? Before you provide your answer or suggestion.
Yeah.
Without that, it would be your context.
Yes.
So Purna, my question to you is, what level of experimentation does your organization allow today? Or Praveen, you can also answer. It's okay, because you both are from same organization.
I would say, I mean, this, so there are types of experiments. So I'm not an individual, I'm not a team. So right now I'm like holding a big chunk of things. And if something goes wrong, it's entire product that is going to be, in a problem. We have not done anything with my expertise and then with my level of authority. We have not done any experiments, because so I know that moving a sprint cycle from 3 weeks to 2 weeks to get a consensus from everyone, it took 9 months. And for a simple thing, moving 3 weeks to 2 weeks took 9 months. And I would know that how much time that I need to get to start the experiment. Okay. So right now I would say no.
Absolutely. So welcome to the world of, the consensus, I would say, right? So
Yeah.
if that's how consensus driven organizations work. So Parul, just to reflect, right? So if you say, okay, 1 month experimentation, 2 months experimentation, it would be really, difficult for other people to swallow, because I can understand where he's coming from, right? So for me to get one decision for an opco to go ahead, it took me 4 months. So it's nothing different. Okay. So from that point of view, it can happen based on the culture of the organization. Right?
Yes.
What is the level of experimentation you can conduct? So sorry, I just digress the conversation, because I just wanted to get their views as well, and also to really shape it up. Yeah, Hari, you had something.
I think it's about our ability to have this elevator pitch conversations at the right point in time, at the right forum, to get the buy-in for experiments. Because many a time we are not at the right place at the right, or we are talking to the wrong people. We are talking the right thing, but to the wrong people. So what it needs is an access to the right forum in which, and it actually takes probably 10-15 minutes to get that buying to do certain things. But most of the cases we are too scared, or we are probably talking the right to the wrong set of people. So to reach to the right set of people at the right point in time will create that space for us to get that buy-in to the experiments that is needed. That's my little experience.
So my question to you would be, Hari, what assumptions are you making when you say that?
Yeah, that's coming from my past experience. So there are a lot of assumptions on how I had gone through the experience of how it was.
Yeah. So
that depends on the context of the organization.
And the willingness of the leadership also,
True.
right? So which is, I'm just trying to go to the other spectrum. Yes, probably you have a better experience or better, uh, you know, better consumable audience, which you could get a buy-in faster. But my experience has been, I've seen both sides of the coin.
Yeah, you're one of the best person who's seen both sides.
So from that point of view, yes, I've worked with people who are kind of, okay, you want to do it, go ahead and do it. We'll see what fails, right? And there are people to, even it depends on which side of the bed they get up.
Yeah.
So there are both sides, right? So that's why I said probably we carry a lot of assumptions when we get into these kind of discussions. And Praveen, that's why I asked you in the beginning what role you want me to play, because that is very, very critical to understand in a conversation. Okay. So I think you have three different, two answers already. Now, the third question we had was what challenges we have faced, right, in our experience. So before we go there, based on whatever has been shared so far, what has resonated with you?
Yeah, I've taken key notes, and then most of them are in line what I had in my view. And
Okay.
some of them are like experimentation is one thing, and then base camp is like go with the milestone approach, that don't look at long, and then see set up a small milestones for you to celebrate, and then to make sure that okay, this is the one where we are inspecting, adapting. I mean, so this is what I wanted, and it's going in the right direction.
Okay, great. And you heard us speaking about few things, right, in terms of challenges as well. So looking at your context and whatever resonated with you so far, what challenges are you foreseeing for yourself?
Mhm, mhm. The first one, as I said, experimentation.
Yeah.
And then leadership. I don't know. So whatever that we say to leadership is, there is no guarantee that they would say yes or no.
Mhm.
Could be a leadership buying. And resistance. So it is not like what we are all talking about is a one way, that okay, so we will go and do that and experiment small success stories and understand the existing capability which is already there, but how would the teams take resistance from the team?
Hmm. And I have one question here, right? So when you ask the first question, if I had told you that no, go with safe,
Mhm, mhm.
what would your reaction be?
I would ask the following questions, and maybe maybe the discussion would have been in different direction, but this is what the discussion that I wanted. It explored, enlightened to me to choose multiple paths right now. So I will be having for each question, for me, like, is it yes or no? And then
Hmm.
I would have asked my own follow-up questions, like, okay, am I doing in right direction or wrong direction? What could, if it is right, what could be the action item for this particular item? Yeah, I mean, it is always better that you have not given me a one answer and asked multiple follow-up questions. Yeah.
Okay. And how could you use this experience
Mhm.
to actually ask your teams and the leaders to help them choose the framework than you going with the prescription?
Mhm. So I would also play a mentor role, and a combination of a coach and a solutionist, a combination. And I will ask a similar type of questions, right? Exploration. It's not about the questioning. It's about exploration and reflections that they get, and finally get the consensus from all of us and try
Okay,
to get started.
wonderful. So what have you learned about yourself in this journey so far today?
So if someone asks me one question, so get me this. So I would go with this approach. A mentor. So I always thought that okay, mentorship is always prescripting, giving something without asking any question. Okay, you do 1, 2, 3. This is the Excel sheet you follow, or this is the roadmap you follow. But even here, we can ask questions. We can ask exploration things is one thing that I've learned.
Yeah. So what you talked about is consulting, right? So when you come to me for consultation, which I don't do freely, of course. So I'm just joking, but otherwise it's more of a consultation approach, right? So yes, I have an experience and I want to really take it to you and say, this is how things need to be done. But for us, for anyone to do consulting, we should have our skin in the game. You cannot do consulting sitting outside of the fence, right? You have to be in the game. So if you're not in the game, I wouldn't choose consulting at all. I would probably choose, coaching or mentoring or facilitation. That's how I choose my stance.
Okay.
Right. So when you said advisor or mentor, again asked you whether you want to be me to be an advisor or a mentor. Right. So to get that clarity. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. So did you get the outcome you were looking for, Praveen?
Again, if it would have been more challenges, maybe with your experiences, right? So we have 5 members in the team.
Yes. So I can share from my point of view. Scaling always depends on how you are positioned in the organization. What is your role, where you are positioned in the organization defines how well or how quickly or how faster you can onboard business on a scaling journey. If you are in a place where you are brought in by technology, it would always be a struggle to onboard business. That's been my experience. Okay. If you are coming from top down, you are positioned at the top in the organization, or your program is sponsored by somebody at the top. When I say top, it should be in the executive board. Then it's more easier to onboard business, right? And for scaling to be successful, without business, it's not going to work. So that definitely is one. Second, for scaling to work, you also need support teams to be participating in the journey, right? So scaling doesn't work if someone tells me, from my experience, just having business and technology working together, organization can never be scaled. So that's been my, that's from my experience. I will let Parul or Hari or Purna add on to. Those are two major things, right? Where are you positioned drives everything about the scaling part, or even generally the transformation itself, right? And then how well you are able to integrate the support functions into the scaling environment would define how successfully can you scale till the enterprise level, right? And that's what defines the whole success of the transformation. Rest everything revolves around these two. If you have these two taken care of, I think the rest can be worked through. Those are nitty-gritties which can be looked into. Yeah, Hari, Parul, Purna, anything you like to share?
I guess one question is, what are the outcomes that we wanted to achieve through scaling or even any transformation? Why are we scaling? What are the objectives? What are the end? What are the purpose in which that you're doing this for? If you are able to understand that and connect with that, and always having that, I call it as seeding the plant conversations. So if you are able to get that conversations connecting to the outcome that we wanted to achieve, then we will get a better understanding or acknowledgement of what we are trying to do.
Okay, thanks, Hari. Parul, anything you like to add?
No, this is great.
Okay, Praveen, you have any other questions before we close this topic?
I'm good with this. Yeah, thank you. Thanks team. Thanks for giving me a beautiful insights for taking my journey. Yeah,
awesome. So any feedback from anyone? Praveen, we'll start with you before we go to the observers.
It was nice. When I started, I thought that okay, it would be a small discussion, a one-liner, like okay, you go and choose this one. But I've never started when I've never imagined that when we had started almost 30-35 minutes, and we have set time for 20 minutes, right? And it's more than 40 minutes now that we had discussed this topic, and then it's fantastic.
Okay, great. Purna, Parul.
Yeah, I will go next, sir. So in your conversation, you have used complete clean language. So whenever you are asking a number of questions, Praveen is able to give the inputs. So you set the stage first. On top of that, you listen patiently whatever the issues are having based on his questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Parul or Hari.
So my thoughts were that I wasn't expecting this to go the way it went because it was more of exploratory, and it's a learning for me that how we can, because I didn't think this was going to be a coaching conversation. I thought this is going to be a question answer sort of conversation. But what I learned is that how, as a coach, even when you want to mentor people, understanding the context from their side is so important. And how you have, I think it made him also think more of the problems and of the from his own context. So I think that was a learning for me, that how all conversations can be more exploratory than consulting people.
Yeah, I think that's something we should try. Mentoring is not about giving a solution. Mentoring is about sharing your experience based on the exploration you do. Otherwise, you are only talking about yourself. You don't understand what they are looking for. So,
Yes.
firstly, exploring what they are looking for is the base. And understand the real problem that they are looking to address, right? And then share your experience, and what resonates with them is to be understood, so that they carry back what is more contextual to them. That's how we look at mentoring, at least from my perspective. Yeah, Hari, all over to you.
I think I encountered my own bias. When you ask this question, what is that your assumptions that you're making? I came across, we all are biased. We bring in our own experience-based biases, and that is not necessarily what Praveen is looking for.
Yeah.
Right. What he's looking for is his context and his situation. I jumped in between. I probably did not understand the context, and I started sharing my experience that may not resonate with somebody whom I am mentoring, even coaching for. That's what I came across in this conversation. Thank you for that, Vivati.
Thank you, Hari. So, Praveen, question to you: how comfortable are you to share this conversation to the outside group?
No, I mean, for me, who is the outside? At least, are we talking about our
Anybody?
inner?
Are you comfortable for this to be floated
Yes.
outside?
Yes,
You're
I'm
okay with
comfortable.
that?
Yes.
Because without that consent, I wouldn't want to put what we discussed, but it could
Yeah.
be a good experience for people to really
Exactly.
understand how to deal with these conversations.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, wonderful.
I
Thank
have
you.
one question.
Yes, please.
Before.
Go ahead, Parul.
So I wanted to ask you that in an experience where someone comes to you and they want to be just consulted and they are very adamant about it, that just give me an answer, and it is a possibility that they are your client, and could be the whether they are product owners or project managers, and they're looking for an answer and they're very frustrated and they just want an answer. So how to dodge not dodge, but how to get into that space where even with that, every sentence that you say, they just want an answer. You're not understanding. I want an answer.
Yeah.
So how to get out of that situation, because the emotions are flowing and you are maybe you also want to understand the context. So that was something that I wanted to ask.
Yeah. Anyone wants to explore how you would respond to Parul for that question?
Yeah. Yes, sir. So I will say, irrespective of hat, the person who is asking, we have to set the context before our discussion start. Listen first. At the end, I will take your questions so that we can calm down outside opposite person, so that he can able to listen and understand what Parul is explaining. This is my answer, sir.
Okay. Any other views from anyone? No. Hari, anything?
They expect an answer. That's what Parul said. Is
Yes.
because you're contracting with the person is probably of a consultant, not as a coach. So, and the emotions are flying, of course, as Purna said, we cannot coach or other nothing. I mean, that won't work. So as he said, also we need to, if we have to coach, also we need to bring that person, calm that person down, right? And then having a conversation only when he is calm. And that's only way that the space need to be created. We have to look into what is the contract that we have. If there's a contract is to give solutions, then we better give solutions. If the contract is to you know give coaching, then we give coaching.
Yeah, brilliant answer. So Peter Hawkins also talks about ABC.
Yeah.
Always begin with contract.
Contracting. Yeah.
Right. So ask that question. So first, when Praveen asked, what would we do? What is that you want from me? Right. In the end, it's about the client. It's not about you.
Yeah.
So what is that they want? If somebody is really burning bridges and they want something to look at as a lifeline, if you start coaching them, it's like somebody is drowning in a swimming pool and you say, no, how can you, put your left hand forward and right hand forward? It doesn't work, right? So it depends on the client in the end. What is that they are looking for? So always begin with contracting to say, what is that you want me to do here? Right? And it depends on, there are a lot of things that drive that conversation. It depends on what is the level of trust and respect between you and the client. Is it the first conversation or is it the nth conversation? Right?
Yeah.
Suppose, you and me have interacted enough. So if you come to me with a burning problem, I probably would have developed enough credibility to ask you a question and probably take you into the coaching mode, right? Depends on the credibility that we have built. And if it is the first conversation, right, then it becomes more difficult to get into the stance probably you would like to choose as a coach. So always begin with the contracting that is driven by the strength of relationship that you and the client have. Correct? So
Yeah.
it depends on that, because I was talking to Praveen probably first time today. To his credit,
Yes.
he has, accepted that, that me to be a mentor. Otherwise, this is our first conversation. Right? So you have to create that trust factor with the person whom you are speaking. Right? And that came from, let's say, beginning, how we built the rapport, asking about how is the new year, how is your goals going. So it's kind of developing at least that small rapport with a person whom you're talking first time. But others, let's say Purna or Hari or you, we have spoken enough. We have enough strength of relationship to have even hard conversations, right?
Yes.
Even in the toughest of the circumstances. So that's also a critical factor. What is the strength of your relationship with the client at that moment? So it's not a single parameter that influences the contracting as well, right? So it depends on their current state of urgency.
Yeah.
Right? What is that their expectation they have from you? And number 3, also, what is your strength of relationship? And number 4, why are they coming to you? Are they coming to you driven by somebody? Are they coming to you on their own? These factors also influence. If some leader had told them, go and ask Parul, she will help you, right? And you have to talk to Parul. So now they are coming to you with a mindset forced by someone to talk to you. So there is no level of acceptance between you and me. Right? So there are different factors that you need to look into before you make that decision. So ABC always helps. Always begin with contracting so that you understand You can develop that rapport during that contracting itself. He will say, my leader asked me to talk to you, right? Okay, let the leader be aside. What is that you want? So what are you doing then? You are saying, I don't really care what the leader has told you. It's okay. It's between us.
Right.
Right. So that is the kind of conversation development. So always ABC is something you always should remember. I remember that greatly from Peter Hawkins. He says ABC.
Yeah.
Always begin with contract. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Wonderful. I hope that helps. Okay. Thank you all
Yes.
for joining. Have a great weekend. We'll continue these conversations as we go. Week on week.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.